I welcome you in today's meeting, which is organized under the BBioNets project. Before I proceed with today's organizational issues, just a reminder of what BBioNets is for those who haven't heard about us. It's an EU-funded thematic network aiming to enhance the adoption of bio-based technologies to manage and process agricultural and forest biomass, and we are doing this also by promoting the world of operational groups throughout Europe. With, of course, the term bio-based technologies, we are referring to technologies or practices mainly that use non-food feedstock circularity principles or both to deliver diverse products. And this is something that we will delve in today. How we try to do that? First of all, we started at regional level. You can see on the map the 6 countries represented by the consortium. And we created what we call forest and agricultural networks. Basically, we are talking about actors, agriculture, actors, farmers, foresters, their advisors, multipliers, experts, whatever you call it, in an attempt to analyze the regional situation and try to get in contact with the main target, primary producers, farmers and foresters. Doing so, we created what we call a roadmap for BBT implementation, starting from the current status, analyzing the challenges and needs in each region, and we concluded to the most suitable solutions or technologies, BBTs, in each region. This information is available, so you can review it at your own time. After doing this analysis, we now are in the process of knowledge transfer activities, implementation of info days, train the trainers, so targeting the advisors, or small-scale mentoring. I'm sure that the project partners in your countries are already promoting this idea, so you know more about the timing and the type of activities. Going beyond the regional level, we are now in the process of allowing cross-fertilization of ideas, of concerns, of solutions. We do it in 2 rounds. The first had a more geographical orientation, so we grouped regions based on their agri-climate characteristics. And the second round, which is implemented now, it's focusing on topics of common interest. We identified 6 of them, and today we will be focusing on Woody Biomass Utilisation. So, what we will do today? We have the privilege of listening and being informed of solutions or ideas from a university in Ireland, a cooperative in Spain, an SME in Czech Republic, and a community enterprise in Italy. Later on, following these short presentations, there will be a panel discussion where my colleague Francesco Basset will guide the speakers to give us more information about their work and their ideas, while of course any of the participants of the audience will be able to ask questions. If the time is not suitable enough, we can follow up these answers later on, but we'll try to do our best to address everything today. So with no other delay, Maurice, I don't know if you have joined. No, Jorge. Let's start with you.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry. I don't see my list. Okay.
No, it's okay. I'm here. Can you see me? Can you see my presentation?
Now, yes, I do.
Okay, you can see my presentation as well?
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction. It was really, really nice. And I'd like to thank Carmen as well, who invited me to speak at this. So if you're listening, Carmen, thank you very much for the invitation. So I'm going to talk today about lignin. So I gave it a nice title. I called it Plastic's Natural Rival and how lignin is reinventing materials. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we do here at the University of Limerick within my own research group. But firstly, I'm just going to introduce myself. So my name is Maurice Collins. I'm a professor here at the University of Limerick. I'm in the School of Engineering. I'm the head of research in the School of Engineering, and I'm also pillar lead in the Burnell Institute. I'm the pillar lead of sustainable and resilient materials. What I'm going to talk about today is work within my own personal research group, and it's on lignin-based materials. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the type of things we're doing with lignin. So I'm just trying to get to the next slide. 1 second. Okay, I have to go this way. Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on this slide, but this is the driving force for all our research. So basically, the current situation, which you all know very well, is that polymer materials, plastic materials, they come from fossils. They come from fossil fuels, and they're getting quite a lot of bad press at the moment because they're non-recyclable. They end up in oceans, they end up in rivers. So you see plastic pollution all over the world. So a lot of bad press around polymers and plastic materials. And not only the fact that they can't be recycled or they're not being recycled, they come from fossil reserves, as I say, and fossil reserves are dwindling. And of course, there's climate implications, and we have climate change as a result, global warming and pollution due to oil being leaked into oceans and onto beaches and stuff like that. So it really is very bad for the environment, these fossil-based polymeric materials. So our solution is we're trying to move away from this and produce a new type of plastic materials, a new type of polymers from sustainable resources. But it's not just polymers, we're also looking at carbon materials. And polymers are the precursor to carbon materials. At the moment, carbon materials come from a polymer called PAN, P-A-N, and that is notoriously unsustainable because it's fossil-based, as I said, but also very energy intensive to produce. So we're trying to replace that PAN with a natural polymer called lignin to make carbon materials. As I said, about 95% comes from PAN, and about 5% of carbon materials come from graphite that forms in the ground and gets mined, and there's a lot of pollution associated with that too, and a lot of health effects. So you can see there in the middle image, the mines in China, and it has a lot of effects, a lot of health effects to the miners when they're mining this graphite. It gets into the lungs and things like that. So it has all these problems with health, environmental effects, health effects, but also economic effects, and also critical raw material effects. So Europe, not just the fact that we need to import these materials from outside Europe, is also problematic at the moment. So there's geopolitics involved too, that Europe needs to produce its own raw materials from sustainable resources that are available in Europe. So that's what we're focusing on. And I guess coupled to all that, there's also legislation. So legislation is driving this. So here in Ireland alone, we're targeting a 51% reduction in overall greenhouse gas emissions from our 2018 levels by 2030. Now, I don't think we're going to reach that, but that's the target. And we also have net zero emission targets by 2050. And if we don't meet those, there's fines involved. So there's a lot of policy around this, and there's a lot of economic factors driving this transition to a new circular-based bioeconomy.
Apologies for interrupting, but there's a comment in the chat. Your slides are not changing if you...
They're not changing because I'm still on the same slide.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies, I'm a bit slow. So I'm still on the first slide. So, but don't worry, I'll get there. So we're still working on these, trying to get these sustainable materials. So as a result, now I've changed. So as a result, there's also a lot of waste materials accumulating all around Europe. So we have food waste, agricultural waste, forestry waste, etc. So we need to do something with this waste buildup. So we've targeted forestry waste here within my group, and we have focused in on lignin, which is part of the lignocellulosic waste. So you have cellulose, lignin, and hemicellulose, and we've targeted the lignin. So without dwelling on that, just a few words about lignin. A lot of you know what cellulose is, and I guess a lot of you know what lignin is, but cellulose is quite valuable. It's used in the paper and pulp industry. And basically, lignin is a byproduct of the paper and pulp industry. And it's undervalued at the moment, underutilized. It needs to be valorized. So we are trying to work on valorizing lignin from the paper and pulp industry. So we get lignin, different types of lignin. We extract it in different ways using organosolv and kraft, etc. But the beauty of lignin is that it's made up of these ring structures here, as you can see on the right hand side. It's made up of these aromatic structures. It's the only naturally occurring sustainable biopolymer that has these aromatic structures. And that's important because that means that we can produce high performance materials from lignin. And it also means that we can produce carbon materials from lignin. So we can use lignin as a precursor for carbon materials. So I'm just going to move on from that. So this is what we're doing. So this is what we do here. So we started off and we started blending lignin with different polymers, different biopolymers. So you can see a list of them there. I'm not going to go through it. But some of these polymers, they blended well. And the ones you see with the red X's, they did not blend very well. So the materials that blended well gave us this nice structure here on the right-hand side. So I don't know if you can see my cursor, but we have a well-blended material that doesn't cause any pores. So this is ideal for making fibers and also ideal for making carbon fibers. The materials that did not blend very well left pores, and this made a porous material. So we made porous fibers. So that initially was not a good result. We were not looking for that, but it turned out afterwards that we were able to do a lot of really nice things with these porous materials. And I'll tell you about those in a minute. So we started off blending our lignin with different polymers, and then we started looking at properties. So we started looking at the structure, the properties, processing, and the final function, the final application. So we're looking at the structure of the material, how that manifested as properties, mechanical, electrical, biomedical properties, and how that could be processed in extrusion, injection molding, or 3D printing, and then being able to put it into an application. So we looked at things like battery applications. So from our porous lignins, we made anodes for batteries, for lithium-ion batteries, and from sodium-ion batteries. We made some fibers, and we converted them to carbon fiber, and we got the state-of-the-art mechanical properties. So we made tensile strengths of about 25 megapascals and Young's modulus stiffnesses of over 1,000 megapascals. So we've gone higher. We've gone up to nearly 2 gigapascals now. So that's the stiffest carbon fibers that have been made to date from lignin. And we've done some Raman spectroscopy to tell us about the type of carbon materials that we get from lignin. So whether they're ordered or disordered carbons. And then we were able to model, or we were able to come up with our theory of how these materials, how the crystallinity affects how these materials deform and how they fracture. So we're able to produce a range of materials for a range of different applications. So some of these applications, in a little bit more detail, are quite new. We were the first to produce thermoelectric supercapacitors from lignin. So what we did here is we started off with our blend, the blend that didn't work, the one that produced the pores. And we made these porous structures into nanoparticles, and we put these nanoparticles into channels, and we made membranes as well. And we were able to move ions up and down these membranes, these lignin-based membranes, using a change in temperature. And with the flow of ions from hot to cold, we were able to get an electrical charge. We were able to produce power. And so for example, you can see here on the right-hand side, this is my PhD student. This is him on the left-hand side is normal, so he's at 34.1. That's the body temperature is 37 degrees C. So that was his skin temperature, 34.1. So that was before exercise. Then he did about 50 push-ups, and you can see that the temperature increased. And that change in temperature was able to cause these ions in our membrane to move up and down, and that generated electricity. And we were able to use that electricity to power wearable devices like your smartwatch or things like that. So basically, these materials that come from a sustainable source, they come from lignin, but they can be used then to harvest waste heat to produce electricity to power devices. So it's really sustainable, a really sustainable solution, and a really nice solution. And we published that work in Advanced Functional Materials a couple of years ago. So another thing we're working on this currently. There's a couple of European projects that I'm involved in, working on our lignin carbon fiber, which is the main thrust of our group. So what we do here is we use our good blends. So we blend our lignin with thermoplastic polyurethane, a bio-based polyurethane, and we produce these precursor fibers, which we use then in our pilot scale plant to produce carbon fiber. And you can see a spool of carbon fiber here at the very end. So there's a lot of steps to this. It's a long process. So we have to make our fiber by spinning, then we stabilize it, then we carbonize it to make the carbon at about 1,000 degrees C, and then we make products from those composite materials. So we put those fibers into polymers to make composites, and then we produce wind turbine blades for wind energy. You can see here. So we're making wind turbine blades, and we're also making these vessels here for hydrogen storage. So I'm going to show you a very, very short video just to give you an idea of what goes on, because it'd take me too long to explain it. So this is about 20 seconds. That's the lignin, the brown stuff. we extrude it into a fiber. We chop up that fiber, that's our pellets. That goes back into our extruder. This is our pilot facility here at UL. And we make that's our precursor fiber. Then it goes into carbonization, and we carbonize it to make a spool of carbon fiber. And that then goes into a polymer to make a composite. And then we make our parts from that. And then another thing that we're doing is, this was just published this morning, actually. So we got this published in Advanced Materials, which is a very high impact journal. So here we were using lignin to make an anode for a battery. So we were using lignin combined with gelatin to make sustainable anodes that were porous. And we looked at the carbon phase again in great detail to see how the storage mechanism of sodium was working. So how do these sodium batteries charge? How do they discharge? How quickly can we cycle them? How reliable are they? So that worked really well, very promising. Sodium, of course, being a sustainable battery as opposed to lithium, because lithium ions is mined in Africa, whereas sodium, you can get it from salt water. And then we're combining that with our lignin anodes to make a really sustainable battery. And as you can see, it gets a nice specific capacity as well. So it's a high performance battery as well. And then this is my last couple of slides. So then one of the other things we're doing is biomedical applications. So just to show that we're not just making really high, really strong, really stiff materials, but we can also make flexible materials from lignin. So we've produced a flexible tubular materials from lignin, did mechanical properties, looked at the microstructure of it, looked at the biocompatibility. And you can see here, this is the biocompatibility results. So we've shown with mouse cells that they're compatible, that these materials don't kill mouse cells for up to 96 hours. So that's a standard test. And then we've used these flexible materials for tendon repair, so repairing tendons in humans. We see in the future they could potentially be made for vascular conducts or nerve regeneration. So we're looking into those applications as well. So this is really advanced applications for lignin. So the future plans for us are that we're going to continue with our lignin work, our fiber work. We want to make more spools. We want to make those into fabrics next. So we're planning to spin our fibers and make fabric materials, and then put those fabrics into composites and make advanced engineering materials. And I guess as conclusions, so we've lots of progress on sustainable materials for really high-end applications, because a lot of the time when people talk about sustainable materials, they kind of look at low-hanging fruit and low-end applications. But we're deliberately targeting advanced next-generation engineering applications. There's opportunities for hybrid materials. There's obviously a lot of life cycle analysis involved in this, and we're doing that too. And there's a lot of different aspects to processing. There's policy discussion around afforestation here in Ireland to mitigate carbon emissions. So our target here in Ireland is 18,000 hectares per year. Currently, we're planting about 2,500 hectares per year. So the aim is to increase our land coverage from 11% at the moment to 18%, which is the lowest in Europe. Here in Ireland, we have a very low land coverage of forests, so we need to grow more trees. So this is kind of putting an emphasis on that we can do lots with our lignins if we grow more trees. So we're doing life cycle analysis as well. So just briefly, we did a life cycle analysis. I know a lot of people, whenever I do these talks, usually I get asked about life cycle analysis. Yeah, we've done life cycle analysis on these. We're looking at about a 50% reduction sorry, I went back there. So we're looking at about a 50% reduction in cost, and we're looking at about a 50% energy reduction when it comes to our carbon fiber processing. But overall, the lignins should come in at about 50% reduction in carbon emissions when we're comparing it with current fossil-based materials. But obviously the scaling effects and things associated with that. This other stuff we do with lignin, I'm not going to go into it, but if you're interested, we can talk about it some other time. These are the people that pay the bills. So I'm involved in lots of different European consortia at the moment. So most of the money comes from there that help us support our work. But we're also get supported by Research Ireland here in Ireland. So thank you for your time. I hope I didn't take too long.
Thank you, Maurice. Actually, you have 2 minutes more to spare, but I will not push you.
You can ask me a question if you wish.
Well, I wrote down a couple of questions for later on, but now I think we should move to the cooperative from Spain, Jorge. Sorry, there is a question. Someone raised his hand. If there's a question, can we ask it in the panel session later on?
Okay. Yeah, that's no problem. Thank you.
Perfect. Jorge.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting us to this meeting, because I think it's a great opportunity to get to know potential partners are also to present ourselves as potential partners for future projects. I would like to start with a brief introduction about Agresta, so you get an idea of what we are. We are a cooperative project, which means that the workers are also somehow owners of the company. We have already 25 years experience. We were founded in the year 2000, and we are focused on forest and rural development. We are 50 people with many PhDs. I'm one of them. And we have 12 work centers in Spain, but we have experience in several international projects, not only national. As you can imagine, sorry, I don't know why it's not working. No. We focus on remote sensing and forest monitoring, but we have many other departments. I will focus only on the forest part and the biomass part, since it's the topic of this meeting, but we have many other departments. But in all of them, we have the principle of using open data. So in Spain, we are lucky because we have many different options for open data and open source softwares. So we use our computing capacity to use all this data for forest monitoring. I will give you an example of things that we do related to biomass availability. For example, we can do an analysis of what's the availability of biomass for an industry, for example, or the profitability of this biomass. For example, the workflow could be something like this. So we can know what is the volume in cubic meters that we have in one in a region or in a particular area. We can convert it to available biomass, and we can analyze how available or how mechanizable is this biomass is, taking into account the slope, the roads, and etc. And to do some include also in the algorithm some harvesting or profitability criteria, and have an analysis of how available, mechanizable, and profitable is the biomass of one region, for example. This is just an example. As I told you before, we have a long experience in remote sensing, and we have many different projects and different softwares and platforms. But ForestMap is our start, let's say, like our best platform. And my idea is to present you how it works briefly, and then make a quick example online so you can see how easy it is to use. First of all, this project started some years ago. We were awarded with an SME instrument prize. So we defined 7 pilot areas in Europe, and we analyzed how is the forest sector in these areas in Finland, Slovenia, Germany, Italy, France, Portugal, and Spain. We were in contact with forest owner association, data providers, local consultants. As you can imagine, the forest sectors of these countries are very different. The availability of data is very different. So this gave us huge knowledge about how everything works in this topic in Europe. And what we did with all this information was to create a database, first of all, based on LiDAR, satellite photogrammetry data of each country. We did all the database with the processing the data, calibrating the models, etc. And we created the website ForestMap. ForestMap is a platform that I will show you later, but you can see here that is like Google Maps, for example. You can see the whole area, and you can draw. You can select your area drawing it directly by hand, or introducing the shapefile or the cadastral code, the reference of the plot, etc. You draw the area. If you have some plots, adjustment plots of this area, this could help us to improve our models, but we have already some a good accuracy models, so it's not necessary. But if you have in your area some plots, we can include it, and this will help to improve the accuracy. Once you draw your polygon or you have selected your area, you get a report with 4 parts. First of all is the inventory. You get an idea of how your forest is, and you can analyze all the many different variables that I will show you later. You can see what is the species, the stand type, forest canopy cover, etc. So all the most important variables of your forest. Then the platform also gives you an idea of what is the harvesting operation that you could do. For example, we have included, this is a model that is under development because we are including some recommendation from different forests from different regions in Spain. For example, they have recommendation of different management options, and we are including this in our platform. So directly with the characteristic of your area or your forest gives you which kind of directly the recommendation based on the recommendation of your region. You can see also the risk of fire that you have on your forest and on which part is more has low, medium, high, or extreme risk of fire. Which is this model is also based on a forest fuel model that we are developing now, and you can also see the carbon fluxes. So the above ground carbon that is gained or lost in the past years in your forest. This is how Forest Map works, but this is a platform that we created 3 years ago in 2023, and now very recently we created like the second step of this platform, which is called Forest Map IA, and I will tell you what are the improvements of this platform. First of all, as I told you before, we had different pilot areas. Nowadays, we have full national coverage in Spain, so you can select any region in Spain, any forest in Spain, and you will get data. We are based in the Forest National Inventory plots of Spain and the PNOA LiDAR flights, and also we included information from Landsat to get a semestral update change detection, which means that the inventory that you get is more accurate because we analyze also if in the last 6 months there has been changes on this forest. And the last improvement that we made to this platform is to include an intelligent language model. It's called Gaia, that is a chatbot that you can ask anything. So you get your report with all the information, but you can ask anything to the platform. Let's say we will. So I will make you a quick example so you can have an idea of how it works. So you go here to forestmap.eu and get to request report. We went here to new order. As I told you before, you can give the reference number, do it freehand with a shapefile or KML. But you go here, well, let's make an example here in Andalusia. If we want to draw a polygon, For example, we can go here and say, okay, this is our forest. So we just do like this. Okay. You want to upload a layer for adjustment. This is what I told you before. If we have some data from plots of this area, we can include it in this step. But for this example, I will not include any data. So we go to the next step. I want to finish my order. Continue. We can call it example. And you continue. See the price for me, since it is just an example, this is for free. We continue. And the report is under process. But so to make it a little bit bigger, I already prepared an example here to show you. So this takes a few minutes to get, but what you get is something like this. So if this is my forest, it automatically divides the forest, taking into account all the variables of the stand. And those are the modules that I told you before. So you can see here that you have two stands. The first one is a maritime pine forest. You see the harvesting volume, the quadratic mean diameter, the dominant height. You can see here more detail. So you can see how the tree canopy cover of your forest, how it is distributed in your forest, or the volume, the wood. You can see in which parts you have more volume, the harvesting volume, cubic meters per hectare, etc. You can see all the data of the inventory, the forest fuel model, which is under development, so we still don't have no data here, but we will have it in a few days. We can see the forest management options here. So it's the same, more or less the same as the inventory. You can here see the volume of your stand. For example, it sets the harvesting operation is partially mechanizable, and the suggested type of harvesting is clear cutting. For example, this is just a suggestion. But if you want to know a little bit more, you can click here to the chat and you can ask anything. So, for example, how is the quality of the wood? It takes a few seconds. Sorry, in English. So you have here already what is the percentage of saw log, pulpwood, how is the mean quadratic mean diameter. So gives you already a recommendation of what you could do with this biomass or with this wood. You can also ask how many wooden logging trucks could we get with this wood? So 40, for example. So as you can see, you can ask anything here. So this is more or less the idea of this platform. So you can see how easy it is to manage and the amount of interesting data that you can get from it. So that was my idea for today. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Jorge.
And I will be available for any question later.
Quite impressive platform. I suppose this is the first line of information. Then, of course, someone must enter the forest to see any details and take decision. I mean, a human or a company, but at least this is a first piece of information before, I mean, to take a go or no go decision.
Yeah,
I suppose. Perfect. Thank you very much. And now it's time for cross Europe, go to Czech Republic. Vladimir? Cannot hear you. Cannot hear you, Vladimir. If you can check with your mic.
Sorry, I am here.
Yes,
I now share my screen.
Yes.
Do you see it?
Yes, yes. Please
Okay,
proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I am from the company Propolity. Let me shortly introduce my company. We are developing, we develop, manufacture, supplies and service of middle-sized capacity modular production line for processing agri-mass, dendromass and waste to the form of pellets. And these pellets should be used on the trade as a feeding, bedding, fertilizer or fuel. So we are on the trade from 2008 and have several customers. And our competence is marketing, pre-sale consultancy, comprehensive supply of pellets production lines by own documentations. We are doing warranty and post-warranty service and production on our demo center, which is situated in our city, Žďár nad Sázavou. And we have here prototype line where we are doing many tests of some unusual materials which are based on the lignin and of other type of materials. Yeah, so we met with many standard agri materials like wheat straw, rape straw, hay, alfalfa, miscanthus rice straw. Of course, everybody knows sawdust, so wood sawings and microchips. And other type of material like compost with additive, like dry celery or manure, like sewage sludge from water treatment companies, electro waste, polyethylene, paper, and so and municipal. What is interesting right now, when people are interested about the municipal industrial waste, and everything is ready to do the form of pellets. Using on the trade depends on the quality of input material and depends on nutrition value, absorption value, and so calorific value. If we have a calorific value, we can go to put pellets to the form of fuel or fertilizer if it is nutrition composition. Bedding is absorption value, feeding as in nutrition value. So with all of them, we are ready to prepare it. So next slide. We have 50 customers around the Central or Middle East or East Europe. Sorry, East Europe. In the 8 countries, majority of them are customers who produce agri pellets from the surpluses and the residues from agriculture, and it is a straw, hay, husks, residues from cleaning of agricultural materials, and so and so. And second, and it's a minority of our customers are from wood or woody sector, and they are doing pellets from wood sawdust, MDF sawdust, and short length wood chips. So I prepared for this meeting two examples, practical examples from 2 experiences from 2 customers. Let's say talk about this first one. It is company Izotra, Opava, Czech Republic. You can see at this picture they have a production halls where they produced blinds, rollers, sunshades, marquees, pergolas. That means it is a Woody company and produce these final products and develop and deliver it to the 45 countries worldwide. They have 13 buildings and they had a central heating, which was based on the gas. And 20 years ago, they switched to the pellets, and they consume around 600 tons a year. And 2 years ago, they decided to use some of their residues and transform it to the pellets and help them for covering 33% of company total wood pellet consumption. So here is shortly describe it the process. So that has as a pallets, they have some residues from damaged wood packages and with moisture content up to 14%, with dimensions from 10 centimeter to 1 meter. And they firstly they do crushing to some first microchip chips sizes G30. And after that, second level is putting to our propellet line, which is named Wood Basic. And there is a complete process from crushing, homogenization, pellet pressing, dust removing, cooling, and storing. They produce pellets diameter 6 with good calorific value, and 2 operators are on the one shift, and they care about complete process. So, and management says that advantages of this approach is that cost reduction of the waste elimination, because they years ago they put it to some stores, and now they have to pay it for this. So they now save the money. Second is reduction of the fuel pellet purchasing, because when they produce pellet themselves or own self, so they production is on the 57% cheaper than purchasing. So of course they have a local employment and production and consumption with minimal transportation cost, and so that means the solution is environmentally friendly. So of course every advantage has some disadvantages. So company have to put some money to investment, and here is how many money. Electrical consumption is necessary for production, but for 1 kilo they produce they spend only 115 watts. So when we compare it with this, how many watt temperature what they receive, so it's a ratio 1 to 40. So that means effectively. And the main disadvantage is covered all restrictions from legislation and from regulation and requirements for local authorities. But it is possible to do it, and they meet it, and so they produce these pellets and has this production. So general benefits is increasing independency from the gas, utilization waste from the wood production as added value, and heating cost saving approximately 56,000 euro per year. So that means a return of investment for this technology is near 5 years. All details you can see at this link here down. So it's a first example typically from how to use residues from wood production. And second is from company AgriPellets Zdeněk Piech. This owner has municipal gas heating plant, or no, gas heating plant. Yes, it is gas heating plant in the Prague, and they heat neighborhood suburbs in Prague higher. And when start war on Ukraine and start crisis with the gas, and prices increased many times. So he decided to start be independent on this, and because he has some possibility to receive agri materials, agri residues, and decide to install beside the gas boiler, install the boiler for alternative pellets and wood chips with capacity 800 kilowatts. Company MultiBio, it is here on this one, this picture. And years after install our line as a first for first capacity, and yes, and last year he completed it and produced the fuel during the winter time. He produced the fuel for his heating plant, and during the rest of year he produced agri pellets for feeding and for bedding for animal farmers. So this is some combination of this approach, combine woody and agri. And here is describe it, and at these pictures you can see the technology, what is inside Ferris, that he has a store for bale of hay and straw, and have wood logs and produce and branches and wood chips. And again, first step is that he had to grinding this woody material to the wood microchip on the size G30, and after this they put it to our propellant line and mix it with the hay or straw in a ratio 50-50. And this alternative pellets has a calorific value again near 4,000 watt per kilo, and he deliver it to his power plant. And all technology operates 3 operators per one shift, and they are doing complete process from material preparation to control, service and maintenance of machines, and of course waiting and storing pellets and ship to the packages like big bags or bags. And during the summer, or during the out of this heating season, they are doing the feeding and bedding for the animals, and of course they are ready to prepare photovoltaic power station on his production facility. He announced that advantages of this approach give him diversification, because he has now possible to heat by gas and by biomass. Independency, because fluctuation of imported gas prices are voluntary, so that he now has independency on it. And low production costs, because he announced that alternative pellets are on the same level as a gas right now, or maybe cheaper. So low energy consumption, complete process. He announced that complete process cost him 150 watt per 1 kilo of pellets. So that means efficiency, when we compare it with this 4,000 watt of temperature, so, and this 150 watt of electrical, so that's again efficiency 1 to 30. Energy accumulation. It is, I think, critical point for this approach, that because all energy is accumulating into this vegetable biomass, and use it only when it's necessary. So that means this biomass and this, let's say, pellets are like a battery, energy battery that is put it to the heating process. And of course, this solution is suitable because environmental friendly, and of course give the local employment of the people in the country. Disadvantages, again, is the same like we talk about that they have to invest. Of course, emission of biomass consumption is here, but this approach is under the control. And main disadvantage is, again, put or receive or limits and restriction which is necessary for legislation. And common benefits of this approach is independency from the gas, cost comparable solution to the gas and heating production, and stability of a natural material availability with the advantages of energy accumulation. So all details are again at this link. So it's a 15 right now, 15 minutes. So thank you for this quick report, and other question probably in panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. Indeed, you are exactly 15 minutes.
Thank you.
And the two practical examples are, well, for me, quite eye-opener. But okay, let's continue the discussion later on. Next, go to Italy to see how a community in Fiemme is dealing with biomass. Eva?
Hello everyone, I'm here on behalf of our president who doesn't speak English, Mr. Mauro Gilmozzi, and I give you our perspective from a forest owner point of view. Let me introduce Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme. It is the biggest private forest owner in the north of Italy, and it is a very ancient institution. Its existence was first recorded in a parchment dating back to 1111 after Christ. That means that in July 1111, Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme had already been established as a social body, and as such was acknowledged by the bishop, the prince bishop who signed the parchment. The document you can see here in this slide was issued in 1587, and with this deed, the Prince Bishop granted Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme its coat of arms, which is still nowadays our official logo. The institution survived through centuries, albeit not unscathed. It lost its role as local magistrate and had to relinquish the power to collect taxes. The property was also greatly reduced with the introductions of the local villages in a modern sense, in modern significance. Nowadays, it embodies the spiritual and social and economic values of the valley, of the inhabitants of Fiemme Valley, and it owns a very, very large property of 20,000 hectares of land in the northeast of Italy, in Trentino Alto Adige. It is a bit off from the ordinary commercial routes, so we have some logistic difficulties in processing our wood residues. It's located, this is the map of our property. As you can see, it's located mainly on the left bank of the river Avisio, from 1,500 meters above sea level up to the top of the mountains. You can see it here. And whereas on the opposite side, on the opposite bank of the river, the property is not so homogeneous. We have about 13,000 hectares of woods, and the rest are pastures and rocks. And in the woods, 95% is spruce, and the remain is larch, stone pine, and fir. These are some images of our property. We own 20,000 hectares of land, as I have already said, and we own a palace, a Renaissance palace in the center of Cavallese. We have a lot of mountain buildings, a sawmill, art collections, and historical documents. We have a sustainable forest management. As our forest is very extended, we have divided it into 10 districts, one forest ranger per district. And the districts are managed according to specific forest management plans, which in Italy are legally binding and have a 20 years span. These plans set all the regulations for forests, wildlife, or water protection, and they are very, very strictly enforced. They also set how much wood can be harvested into each district along the 20 years span of the plan. Ours is an all-round cycle from seed to log. Our local workers harvest the seed in the forest, and then they are planted and tended in the nurseries. Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme owns 2 nurseries whose combined potential is 100,000 seedlings per year. It then takes 3 to 5 years for the seedlings to be ready for planting in the forest, and then we get to the planting operation. Reforestation is generally left to the natural dynamics. As you can see here in the image in the center of this slide, there are some seedlings growing on the dead stump of a tree. This is natural reforestation. Artificial reforestation supports those areas that are exposed to hydrogeological risk, such as landslides, rockfalls, mudslides, avalanches, and floods. Planting operations are carried out by our local workers. This is, and then we have forestry companies, local forestry companies, who fell the trees and cut them into logs. As far as 2025, about 90% of the forestry companies were locally based. One of the main principles of Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme is that we have to give value to local economy. This is why we always choose companies that are locally based. We then have a sawmill which processes the logs. It works about 30,000 cubic meters per year and produces planks and finger joints. The rest of the timber we harvest is also sold to national, local, and European sawmills. In 2018, via windstorm hit our area very hard, and we had very huge damages. In just a few hours in our area, we had about 500,000 cubic meters of wood that crashed to the ground. In the whole of Trentino, it was 1.5 million cubic meters of wood crushed to the ground. Here you can see one of our properties and the trees on the ground. Then, 3 years later, we had the onset of a bark beetle epidemic, which caused further damages to the woods. And the epidemic is still ongoing. Bark beetle substantially kills the tree while standing, and the trees get dry, extremely dry. Up to today, we have already harvested more than 1 million cubic meters of timber. This introduction is to say that at the moment, we have large quantities of wood residues on our property to be handled and processed. Normally, our timber, which is not suitable for industrial use, can be turned into chips, sawdust, and firewood. So it is mainly used for heating purposes. But there are also a lot of bark, needles, and cones lying on the ground. So, as I have said before, we are a bit off of ordinary commercial routes. So it's not very easy for us to handle and process all these wood residues. In the Alpine region, we have a lot of wood-fueled stoves, and it is a traditional use for this region. So we have sawdust, which is usually sold to a local plant. You can see it here is Bioenergia Fiemme, which produces pellets for domestic heating. This is the main use for sawdust. Then the timber that is too cracked or damaged for industrial purposes, so to produce planks or finger joints, is chipped, and the wood chips are intended for district heating systems. Val di Fiemme has 2 public district heating plants, which serve about 8,000 people, and a large hospital too. There are also many smaller private plants which need fuel in lieu of gas or oil. Then bark is sold for mulching or gardening uses because it contains tannins which inhibit the growth of weed. And then we also sell firewood to the families. There is a longer-standing tradition called the legnatico. It means that members of Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme are allowed to collect firewood in the forests for free. And they can also buy production wastes at a reasonable price. We have also some alternative uses. There are small locally based laboratories which extract aromas and perfumes from the needles, the resins and cones, and they produce cosmetics, air fresheners, or the aromas are introduced into food, such as chocolates, teas, and ice creams, for example. Then, as I said before, we had a lot of damages to our forests, so we have a need to help reforestation activities. In 2025, we launched a project together with the University of Trento. It aims at turning wood residues into soil improvers. Trees, particularly spruce, need a lot of water in order to develop and grow and then produce wood. And climate changes have disrupted the ordinary succession of the seasons. In our region, we usually had cool springs and snowy winters and regular rainy periods. But climate has changed to very short periods of rain, short winters with very, very little or no snow, and scorching heat in the summer. Under these conditions, the trees suffer greatly, and the stressful conditions for the trees expose them to pest attacks and diseases. We are then studying the use of wood residues in the production of this soil conditioner that should hold back moisture and release it gradually when needed by the plant. The project is ongoing, so we don't have any results as of yet. I would like then to point out that Magnifica Comunità di Fiemme has a lot of forest certifications, and this means that we cannot use chemicals in the forests. We obtained the first FSC certification in 1997, And then in 2008, we had the PEFC certificate, and then other certifications. So you can see ecosystem services and forest for well-being under FSC standards, and sustainability credits under PEFC standards. We also have an ESG declaration, and we run LCS assessments. This is to say that we have some experience in forestry, and but we are so locally based that we cannot expand our activity further than our region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Eva. Indeed, impressive community activity, which is a very good example for others. Let's see.
Thank you.
Well, you are still sharing, because I see myself 2 times. And before we proceed with the panel discussion and the questions, I think it's time for a group photo. So we need only faces, not full body. So don't worry if you are wearing shorts. Just open your cameras. And Eva, can you please stop sharing your screen so we can see our faces?
Just one more moment, please. Smile. Okay, I got it. Thank you, everyone.
I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yes.
Okay, then, Francesco, it's your turn now.
Good morning to everyone.
Don't forget that Sean had a question for Maurice, for the first speaker, so I don't know how you plan to organize it. Just have it in mind.
Maybe I think that I can do a brief introduction and then we can start to the question. And if you want, we can left the floor to the audience after my question. Or
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Everyone, if you want, just raise your hand or post a question in the chat and we'll manage it.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for all speakers. I think that it was very interesting to hear the different experience for different contests, but that are very linked. And so I think that we can share a common thread that help us understand where the woody biomass sector is heading and how we move from resource potential to practical and efficient utilization. So we can start to the question of first speaker. And about this last topic, I want to ask to Maurice, where do you see the best balance between using woody biomass for energy versus for higher valued materials? And what criteria would you use to decide what efficient utilization really means?
Well, it depends, you see. It depends on what you're looking for, you know. It depends on the products. Like, it depends on the end application. So, for example, you may need to have a very high stiffness material, or you may need to have a flexible product. It depends. And not all biomass is the same. Not all lignin is the same. They're all different. It depends on where you get your lignin from. It depends on the source. It depends on the extraction method. So it really is, you have to tailor your source to your application. So the answer to the question is, it's a tricky question, but the answer to the question is that you need to tailor your source to the application. So it depends on what your application is, and then you work back from that, get your source, and then you have to extract it in a certain way, and then you have to manipulate the properties of the material to be able to match the application. Now, for agro applications, typically it depends. Like, an agro application could be anything. It could be something like a hydrogel to deliver fertilizer. If it's a hydrogel to deliver fertilizer, you could produce any type. It could be cellulose, it could be lignin, It depends on how it's cross-linked. So you could cross-link it with something like tannic acid, which comes from wood. I think the last speaker mentioned that. So you could get tannic acid, and then it depends on the ratio of your cellulose to your tannic acid as to how you would release that fertilizer. So that's one application. If the application is like structural, if you want to make a bridge, you want to make a fiber. So you're looking for a very pure lignin is what you need. You need lignin because lignin has better mechanical properties than cellulose or hemicellulose. So you need to have lignin, high purity lignin. So what I mean by that is a lignin with no sulfur in it, so an organosolv type lignin. And you need to be able to process that into a fiber. And you can so if you want to process into a fiber, you need to do, there's two ways you can do that. One is by melting and the other is by wet spinning. So melt spinning and wet spinning. One type of lignin will melt spin, another type won't melt spin, it'll wet spin. So it depends. It's a big box, but it's great because it's great for people like Jorge that can use AI, and you can pick out your you can use AI to be able to get your materials and select your materials quicker. So yeah, it depends. There's a lot of options.
Thank you. The answer was very clear for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can move with another question of if Queen Tony wants to say something.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to, I had my hand raised to ask a question, but I think Morris actually just answered the question. So the question I was about to ask was interspecies variation and the chemistry of lignin formation pathways, and how for example, with ages of between juvenile wood or mature wood and different species, is there differences? But I think, in fairness, Morris, I think you did answer that question. But yeah, bringing the work that you've done forward, I think, is really interesting. I mean, and to start to work with foresters and to identify species and to identify potential end products and to find winners from a national perspective, and the materials that we have domestically and then across Europe as well are all very important. So I think you did answer the question I was going to ask, so apologies, I probably should have dropped down my hand as you were answering the question.
Thanks, Tony. No, it's always good to hear from you, Tony. Yeah, no, look, yeah, you're right. Like the next step is to try and identify different wood species, being able to look at the type of lignin that we can get from that wood species, and then being able to tailor it to a certain application. Like, I'm really focused at the moment on spinning, and I'd like to talk to Vladimir in a while, or maybe I'll get a chance to ask him a question. But I'm really focused on melt spinning and wet spinning and lignins, but not just lignins, other biopolymers that we can extract from other biosources, and being able to spin those into fibers for composites. And what I was going to ask Vladimir about was about pelletizing, but I'll leave that later. But thanks, Tony.
Just very, very quickly, I'm going to put something in the chat. I also, I should have introduced myself. I'm Tony Quinn from the Department of Agriculture in Ireland, and I'm also on Scar Forest, and we're working with a lot of other partners across Europe to develop the Forest Partnership. So I think this is a really good group here that should be aware of what's happening with the partnership. So I'll drop something into the chat for people to have a read in your own time. But thanks very much for the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I see another hand. Sim Finan.
Good morning. It's Sean Finan here from the Irish Bioenergy Association. We're obviously a membership organisation based in Ireland. Our work is really around the mobilisation of biomass and indeed other bioenergy resources. I'd like to compliment all the presenters, but particularly Morris on his excellent presentation. It's very, very interesting work that's happening in UL, and like to acknowledge and compliment all of that. Just one point on your slides, Morris, I might just comment on. It's more of a comment than a question. Just at the very start, you mentioned, I think it was the first or second slide, about resources. And you mentioned about forestry waste. Now, I suppose in the industry, I understand what you refer to in terms of forestry waste, but there's a large there's an issue, obviously, with waste in terms of its categorization from a legal perspective. So we would strongly advocate that we refer, and I understand what you're talking about. It is the end product. It's the material that's left after clear fell. It is effectively a waste, but in the eyes of the law or the legislation, we would really talk about it as a residue, because when you get into the concept of waste, it just brings an additional legal framework upon you, which is a problem. In fact, that type of material which you refer to, which is the material left after a clear fell of a forest, when we call it specified biomass harvest. So we published a paper last year, which we engaged extensively with Tony's colleagues in the Department of Agriculture on as well, around assortment at harvest. So you assort the different components, your components for your timber, for your sawmilling, your smaller components for maybe your pallet or your other material, and then you're left with your residue, which is your biomass material for your energy use, or indeed for your biomaterial use, or for using to produce various different components and compounds for the bioeconomy. So I just wanted to make that point, just about maybe a caution around using the word waste. While I understand what you refer to, there are people out there that will use that against us in the sector. So just maybe it's more of a point of information, but overall it's great to see the work that's happening in this area and ultimately adding value back to the forest owner and indeed the mobilizer of the biomass material, which is specifically our area of interest in Ireland. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. I guess it was a bit provocative, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because it kind of starts the conversation, you know. So you do actually collect that residue and you do something with it. It's good to hear, because I know a lot of forestries that don't do that, and it can be quite problematic in continental Europe, especially in summertime. So we all hear about the forestry fires that we get in throughout Europe, and mainly it's because we don't do anything with those residues, and they're not being collected because they don't have a value. And it's about valorization of these residues, and I think that would help. If it does it, like, it would help when it comes to terms of forest fires in the summer and things like that. So it is really of critical importance. And as well as that, it's not the only type. Like there is other types of materials that gather in forests, like those tree supports for young trees. They have a tendency to gather in forests as well and don't be collected. And they're made from fossil-based materials, and they stay in the forest for quite a long time. And not only that, they break down into microplastics that affect our children's children. So it's a real problem. It gets into the waterways. So we're looking at ways to. We're working with, I guess you know Morris Ryan and Greenbelt. We're working with Morris
to
produce
president,
new.
He's our president.
Yeah, well, I'm working very closely with Morris, and we're producing new biodegradable tree supports that will not cause that microplastic accumulation within forestries and lower water streams. So yeah, it is a topic of great importance for us.
If I could just come back in just on the point about collecting that material, we have engaged with the Department of Agriculture, and Tony might be familiar with this as well, around actually including the SBH, Specified Biomass Harvesting Techniques, within their forest guidance documentation. And it happens in some situations. It doesn't happen in all situations, but it's a journey we're hoping that the industry would go on in terms of making better use of that material. So it doesn't actually happen on every site, but it has the potential to happen on most sites, depending on ground conditions and other things.
Well, I'm glad to hear that there's something happening in that area.
Yeah,
it's definitely a step
forward. Happy to engage Morris on that if you want. If there's any questions arising, happy to engage further on it offline.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much, Morris, to participate with your contribute to this panel. That was very interesting. Now I think that we can move to the second speaker, George, and your presentation, it was very interesting, and I liked very much your innovative model to monitoring the availability of biomass. But I want to ask you, Forest Map AI combines satellite data, LiDAR, and AI models for continuous biomass monitoring. How do you validate the accuracy of your biomass estimation, and how do they compare with the traditional field-based forest inventories?
Well, so first of all, the most accurate answer for it is it depends. So it depends on the species, the type of forest. So obviously, traditional forest inventories are more accurate, but much more time-consuming. So in terms of cost, are much more expensive. With this data, on the use of these models and software, etc., we got quite good levels of error or accuracy. It depends. So in a forest, if the forest is more open, it's more difficult to get the right information, and if it's more close, the values are more accurate. So we can go from a error of 3% in volume to 10, 15 in the worst cases if the forest is very open, and also depending on the species. So there are species that we have more accurate models and more. So it's a species that we can get more plots, so more data, and other species that have less data, so the levels of error are higher. But we can move from 2-3% in the best cases and 10, even 15 in the worst cases. And what we have we are including now in our reports is the levels of accuracy. So we are starting with the volume because we consider that is the most important variable, but we will deal with all variables. So instead of giving you a fixed value as you saw on the example, it will give you a value of the volume that you have on your stand with levels of confidence. So this is your value, but it could go from this to this.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question, sorry. You mentioned the integration of AI language models to improve usability. Could you explain how this feature helps the non-technical users interact with the platform, and what added value it brings compared to traditional GIS tools?
So the most important improvement with the artificial intelligence that we got is the Gaia language model. So this chatbot that you saw, that you can ask anything and gives you an answer. And I think this is the most important improvement because you can use more. You don't need to use a technical language, so you can ask anything, and the chat will answer will give you an answer. So this is I think for a forest owner that is maybe not so familiar with the technical part of all with the forest management, let's say, can give you a good answer and explain you if you don't understand something in the report, for example, you can ask directly on the chat and you will get an answer.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting, this new and innovative model to monitoring the biomass. I don't know, is someone from the audience?
If I may, I have one question for Jorge.
Yes, of course.
Because what you also presented is that the information you get for the forest can also be used for information about the potential fires or emergencies. So your target audience, target user, could be not only a forest manager from the point of view of getting biomass to do whatever we're discussing here, but also from an environmental point of view or prevention of fires point of view. So either to produce products or to protect the region. So how do you promote the platform? What is your main audience, target user?
Well, we have very different users. As you said, we have particular forest owners that want to know what's going on their plots, or companies that own different forests and they want to know how their forests evolve along the time, and also regional governments. We recently made a project using this platform for a whole region in Spain, in La Rioja. So we did a map of forest fire risk for the whole region. So the government of this region can have an idea of which parts are more dangerous or less dangerous, and in order to know where to put more effort or not so much. So and I think we are also doing something similar in Andalusia nowadays, and in the Canary Islands. So we have also explored this with regional administration.
Perfect, because this is a totally different use of a platform, not for making money, but protecting, which is in the long term, again, making money. But okay, that's another story. Well, thank you very much, Jorge. Francesco, back to you.
Thank you, and thank you, George, and thank you, Iacovos. And now we can move to Vladimir, the third speaker. And thank you also for your presentation and to explain us to practical experience. I think that one of the biggest problem related to the valorization of biomass is the gap of knowledge, no? So I want to ask you, how much knowledge is there about the bioeconomy among the Czech biomass business community?
You know, we are on the trade from 2008, so it's now 16 years. So we can say that there are some waves. Because till the end of 2014, Czech government support biomass topic, and we have had a lot of support from the Czech government. So, and we have some, let's say, very known topic, and especially at energetic using of biomass, and especially agri. So during this period, we have a lot of investors who interest about this. But when start Green Deal, and Green Deal was introduced, and when start discussion about end of coal burning, so that mean because the emission. So now start discussion about zero emission sources, and that sun and wind receive preference, and this main feature or main characteristic of agri and wood biomass is accumulation of energy, and this topic fall down. And actually, people feel that there is restrictions and some limits, and people waiting for a new policy of the European Union. And of course, unfortunately, even a new strategic framework for competitive and suitable biomass, which was adopted in November 2025, it doesn't replace Green Deal. And our feeling is that it's a part of the filling policy again. So we are continuing at this, and that's why business community which interest about investment to this sector a little bit waiting because regulation limits and because not clear what will be in the future. And there is a lot of the problematic things like that we are talking about the biomass. And biomass now, everybody, politician and journalist and media means forest biomass. That means chips and wood chips and so and so. But agri is, which is for our point of view, has a much large potential, is out of the interest right now. But 15 years ago, it was different. So that my feeling is that now Czech investors knows what is at this and follow what happened inside. But because Green Deal and new policy in European Union move it to another type of investor, so it's a little bit low. And so that's why I start be active at this BioHub East and your, let's say, activity, because it a little bit should be to some change the mining of the people.
Thank you very much, Vladimir, also because you get out to other and very important topic, in my opinion, that are the policy support and the financial support of this sector that are very different between different countries, and so it's very interesting for me to know and to understand how this is regulated in your country. I have another curiosity, and maybe can be related to this argument. What are the main limitations to greater use of biomass as a renewable resource in the Czech Republic, in your opinion? And are they emission limits or something else?
CO2 emissions are not a problem because biomass is CO2 neutral, but problem is emission from the dust and from NOx, that mean nitrogen oxygens. So because it always appear when we burn biomass. So it is legislation and certification authorities are under commercial and political and clientelism for pressure right now, I think, and sometimes not respect physical and chemical laws for burning of process and biomass. So and the result is that legislation limits push the energy biomass out of the interest of investors. Last example was 1 year ago when was the suggestion.
We lost him, maybe.
Well, we can. Tony had a question. I don't know if it was for Vladimir. So
I did have a question for Vladimir, but it was just about the. It was about the variability of biomass.
Sorry, something happened.
Okay.
So I'm back. I start to talk about this about the example which happened 1 year ago when eco design standard limits was preparing to change, especially and some when this authority said that amount of the dust will be reduced from 40 milligrams per cubic meter to 5, and it is out of the physical law. And practically it is possible to solve it that every user of wood boiler install some special separator for this dust which goes through the chimney, but it's really low micrograms limit. And now there was a big resistance opposed this because people who produce the boilers will have had some trouble. So now this limit is postponed. Producer of boilers waiting what happened, and investors say, okay, we are feel a little bit insecure. So that says that from my point of view, that the people who prepare this legislation, so will have more collaborate with a specialist who are ready to prepare the let's say unification of the environment, but only but not for the all countries, but for some regions. For, let's say, city, something different will be for city, something for the village. Yeah, so it must be a little bit how to say it, exploring this rules which open investor interest.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. Tony, I have a question for you. So please, Tony, the floor is yours.
Please, thank you very much. Vladimir, thank you for your presentation. It was excellent and a lot of very good points raised. And you spoke a little bit about the emissions, but I had a question in relation to the more internal workings of biomass boilers. Like, given the inherent variability of different, so if you're moving from agricultural products to wood products, there's a lot of differences and nuances between it in the feedstock. How do you deal with differences in ash composition or chlorine content or other inorganic constituents that influence boiler performance? Or is this something that has an issue for you or for your machines? Does it influence, I suppose, the performance, or fouling or slagging the ash content and the workings of the machine? I'm particularly thinking about chlorine and HCl destroying. I have seen it destroy boilers back in the past.
We are producer of pellet machines and producer of boilers, or let's say producer of pyrolysis, producers of the let's say units who consume our pellets, give us this information. Yeah? So that first what we can and it has an influence on our business. So that means the first we have to solve the, let's say, consumption possibility and prepare environment for this, which will be safe and for investments. And of course, and after second step will be our technology, who is prepared the granules or prepare the quality fuel for burning boilers, for the pyrolysis, for other biogas stations, and so and so. So that's my feeling like this.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you very much, Vladimir, for your contribute. Now we can go to the last speaker, Eva. And thank you for, I'm like Jacobos, I'm very impressive to the network and to the community that you are able to build in the year. So my question is related to this for the first one. What were the main barriers or problem that you faced in the building of this model and of this community? Because in my short experience, often there is some problem to connect the local actors in some community or networks. So this is my first question.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I believe the main problem is the location. So because we are far off from the main routes, So we are a little bit distant from industries, from train, railway stations, and such. So our trade in logs is hindered by these problems. And we are a very close-knit community. It is difficult for us to open towards the other communities. And the fact, I believe that we are very ancient, so we have this heavy heritage we carry with us, influences the fact that we are close-knit and we are not open towards other experiences.
Okay, thank you very much. The second question is about your model and how do you think that your model can be transferred in and replicable in other countries? So, do you think that your experience can be transferable for the other region? And if yes, in which part is related to the governance, to the partnership, or to the use of certification for your sub-product?
Well, I believe that we can export our experience in forest management because it's very technical and it has a long-standing experience. So this can be exported and it can be used as a model for other countries, other areas too. And then I also believe that the fact of having a lot of certificates under both FSC and PEFSC can be an improvement also in not only in trade but also in the management itself of the forests.
Thank you very much, Eva.
You're welcome.
Someone from the audience want to ask something else?
Well,
okay,
not,
maybe go,
no, please, Francesco, please proceed.
No. I want to say that maybe we can close the panel of discussion. I want to say thank you for the speaker, but also for the audience for the interesting discussion. I think that now we know a bit more related to the study of the availability of biomass, to the management of the resource, and to the best and different reuse of the biomass to produce added value products. So I think that is useful to understand the valorization of the biomass. So I'm very happy to this panel and thank you for everyone by my side.
Thank you, Francesco. Just 1 minute, bear with me to inform you about what we can do next. I mean, we have created, sorry, a platform where where we have all the information created or collected under the project, so you can visit different aspects of the knowledge we produced. And final comment about the next meetings. This was the 4th on the row. We have 2 more, one in 2 weeks and one late April. You can already view the information, read the information about the previous 3 meetings in our website. These are the links, but if you go in our website, you will see them. And well, that's all for me. And the next couple of days, you will receive the information about we will be ready with summarizing the results in the presentation. So unless there is something else from my side, thank you very much. And on behalf of BBioNets Consortium, see you next time or via email if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice lunch.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.